Good day, everyone. I'm Mr. Ong Wei Sian from College Tingkatan 6 Sriputra, Ipoh, Perak. Today, we would like to discuss about the biological molecules, the chapter, and the subtopic of water. So we are going to talk about the structure of the water, the properties of water, and the biological significance of water to organisms. In this video, we will discuss about the description, description of the chemical properties and the physical properties of water, and relate the physiological roles in organisms. Water is very important for living things to carry out their daily activity as well as the cell metabolisms. The water molecule consists of two hydrogen atoms combined with an oxygen atoms by covalent bonds. Okay, these are two hydrogen atoms, so combined with one oxygen atoms by the covalent bonds in which they are sharing their electrons. Water molecule is dipole due to uneven charge distribution, or we call unequal sharing of electrons between hydrogen and oxygen atoms. So from here you can see there are several free electrons, okay, around the outer shell. So therefore, the water molecule is dipole. Oxygen is more electronegative than the hydrogen. So the hydrogen atoms bears a partial positive charge. We can say that it is a partial positive charge. So the uneven distribution of the electrons here, okay, around the oxygen atom, because the oxygen atom is more electronegative compared to hydrogens. So therefore, here is a partial negative charge. We use the words partial or slightly because it's not the total real charge. Okay, therefore here is a slightly positive charge. So the symbol actually is a sigma negative and a sigma positive. So the bond angle of the water molecules formed is 104.5 degree due to the repulsion of two lone pairs. So here's one lone pair here, here's another lone pair of electrons. So since there are two lone pairs of electrons, so they have the repulsion or the repulsive force, okay, to push the electrons away. Then this will bend the angle of the water molecules to 104.5 degree. Okay, due to the dipole or the molecular polarity of the water is a good or excellent or versatile solvent, okay, due to its molecular polarity. Okay, we use the word good, excellent, or versatile. We cannot use the universal solvent anymore, okay, because the water cannot dissolve most of the solutes, especially the organic solvent. Okay, so it is not a universal solvent, but it is just a good or excellent solvent. The oxygen region, okay, of the water molecules which are partial negative, okay, partial negatively charged. So we use the symbol as sigma negative. So attract to slightly positive charged polar molecules, such as the you can see here is the ammonia here. So here hydrogen atom here is a slightly positive charge, so they can form hydrogen bond. All the hydrogen region of the water molecules are partially positive, okay, partially positively charged. So attract to the slightly negative charge of the polar molecules or anions. So same here, they are form the hydrogen bonds. So because of this molecular polarity, yeah, dipole, the water is a dipole. So the water acts as a good or excellent solvent. So when the a salt, okay, crystal, okay, dissolve in water, okay, or you add into the water, So a hydration shell, okay, you see the hydration shell is formed when water molecules surround the polar molecules or ions. So in this case is sodium ions and chloride ions. So the hydrogen shells that forms around the ions, for example, in the sodium, for sodium ion, you can see the oxygen atom, the oxygen atoms, which is a slightly negative charge, so they're attracted to the sodium ion, which is positively charged. Okay, so on the other hand, you can see the chloride ions. So it's the hydrogen atoms of the water molecules, which is a slightly positive charge. So will attract to the chloride ions, which is a negatively charged. So they form the hydration shell and separate, okay, the sodium ion and the chloride ion from sodium chloride. So we can say that the sodium chloride dissociate, okay, dissociate in the water to form sodium ions and chloride ions. Therefore, water acts as a medium, okay, as a good medium, okay, to dissolve and transport the polar and charged particles, which is ions, for biochemical reactions in cells. Okay, each water molecules can form maximum 4 hydrogen bonds. Okay, from here you can see 1, 2, 3, and then here got another one because due to the 2 lone pairs of the electrons. Okay, an oxygen atom in a water molecule has 2 regions of partial negative charge. Okay, as one is here, right? So and the each of 2 hydrogen atoms has a partial positive charge. So this attraction force formed between water molecules is known as cohesive force. So once they form the hydrogen bonds with other water molecules, so they will form the cohesive force. Okay. Water molecules also display adhesions when the molecules form hydrogen bonds with charged groups of atoms or molecules on their surface. So for example, you can see the xylem wall, okay, the xylem vessels wall, which is contain a lot of which contain cellulose, okay, which has many hydroxyl groups and also hydrogen atoms. So the water molecules, they can form the hydrogen bonds, okay, which with these charged groups, okay, or the partially groups, okay, of the atoms or molecules. So this is called adhesion or adhesive force. Then the combination of the cohesion and adhesions account for capillary actions, okay, to transport water and dissolve minerals against the gravity in plants, okay, in a what we call a continuous, okay, water column. So because of the cohesion, so water has a greater surface tension. This makes the water as a coated with an invisible film. Okay, and you see this diagram. Okay, the insect of the water structure that can stand on the water surface. This is due to the cohesion force. So you look at this diagram. So the cohesion, these water molecules, so hydrogen bonds that form. So here they form they have a greater surface tension, so that the insect or the small animals that can stand on the water surface, okay, without breaking the surface. So this allowed the this insect, okay, they use the water surface as their habitat, or they use this what we call the properties of the water, which is a greater surface tension, to hunt their prey. So another properties of water is water has a high specific heat capacity. Okay, so this is because large amount of heat, okay, 4.2 joule to be absorbed to change the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. So if you say 1 kilogram, so here is a 4.2 kilojoule. Okay, so that means if you want to actually to change the temperature of one gram of water by 1 degree Celsius, either to increase or decrease, So if increase, that means 4.2 joules will be absorbed. If decrease, will be 4.2 joule will be released. So from here you can see in the liquid form, okay, liquid form. So from the 0 degrees Celsius, okay, to 100 degrees Celsius, if they want to absorb, okay, to increase the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius, so it requires to absorb 4.2 joule. Okay, so from 1 to 100, so that means you times 1, what we call the 100. So this is because the much of the energy is used, okay, to break the hydrogen bonds between the water molecules. Okay, so therefore the water has a high specific heat capacity. Okay, these tables they compare. Okay, if without comparisons we can't see how high is the specific heat capacity for water. So from this diagram we can see here they are the metal, okay, silver, copper, iron, aluminum. So this is ethanol, okay, and water here. So we see by compare with others, we can see the water has the highest, okay, specific heat capacity. But in exam, we cannot say highest. We just say higher specific heat capacity compared to others, common substances. Okay, and you can carry out the activities such as you boil the water, okay, with the kettle with the what we call the stainless steel. Then you can touch in the beginning, you can touch the stainless steel on the metal kettle, okay, so they feel so hot. But when at the same time you touch the water you can't feel so hot as hot as what we call the kettle, okay. So this means that if you want to increase the temperature, okay, of let's say 1 gram of the metal or the stainless steel, okay, by 1 degree Celsius, it is easier, okay, or faster compared to increase the water temperature by 1 degree Celsius. This is called the specific heat capacity. Okay. So as a result, water as a temperature buffer, they are a good. Water is a good temperature buffer. So it's relatively slow to heat up or cool down. Okay, so the cells, okay, they bathe in the water or aqueous environment, okay, have a stable surrounding temperature because the enzymatic reactions taking place in cells are sensitive to temperature change. So therefore, the cells that bathe in, for example, in the human body, okay, the cells are bathed in the blood, okay, or in the tissue fluid. So if you want to increase the temperature of the blood or the tissue fluid, so they need to absorb large amount of heat. Okay, so therefore, in this case, the tissue fluid, okay, or the blood, okay, or the aqueous environments, they mean the aqueous habitat. So there can be what we call have a stable temperature. Okay, so this one for the survival of cells or survival of living organisms. Okay, water helps multicellular organisms to maintain their body temperature. This is as we call the temperature buffer. Okay, and then the ocean, like just now we have discussed aqueous habitats. Okay, the ocean and other large bodies of water, for example, lake, okay, pond, have relatively constant environmental temperature. So because the water has a high specific heat capacity, okay, and then they can be suitable as a habitat for aquatic organisms. Then the other properties is water has a high latent heat of vaporization. Okay, again, we look at the table by comparing to others common substances. So see the water for the latent heat of vaporization. When we see vaporization here, so in animal sweating and in plant is transpirations involved. They involve transpiration. So from here can compare. Okay. So in order to vaporize these substances, so they require such amount of heat. So by comparison, so water has the highest, again, has the highest latent heat of vaporization. So therefore, we say water has a high latent heat of vaporization. So why this one is important? Okay, a large amount of heat, okay, this one is 2.26, okay, kilojoule. So here is kilojoule. okay, is requires to evaporate 1 gram of water, okay, or is lost lah. That means this one 2.26 kilojoule is required to loss. Okay, is lost when 1 gram of water is evaporated. Okay, so from here from 100, so actually evaporations occur along start from the 0 Kelvin, 0 Kelvin. Okay, so all the time, all the temperature. Okay. So this is because much of the energy is used to break the hydrogen bonds between the water. Okay, again, so for here, they break the hydrogen water and they change the water in the liquid state into the water vapor, the gaseous state. So this one, they requires to absorb 2.26 kilojoule of heat, okay, or the energy, okay, and then to evaporate the water. Okay, so vaporization of sweat provides cooling effects, okay, for humans to maintain the body temperature. So in the what we call a hot day, okay, or when you are doing exercise, your body generate a lot of heat energy. So we want to release, okay, those energy, so heat energy. So sweatings occur. So when sweating, so they bring a large amount of heat energy that lost from our body. Okay, so therefore, this will provide the cooling effect for humans and other mammals, okay, to maintain the body temperature. Okay, in plants, they what we call the vaporization of water in plants is through the transpiration. So this one also provide a cooling effect to plants. Vaporization of water from large water bodies, okay, helps to maintain relatively constant environmental temperature. Again, so this is to ensure the survival of aquatic organisms. Okay, another properties of water is the cold water is denser than ice. Okay, so the water expands as it freezes because the hydrogen bonds joining the water molecules in the crystallized lattice keep the molecules for enough far enough apart. Okay, so to give the ice a density about 10% less than the density of water. So when the water that forms ice, you can see the volumes increases. Okay, so once the volumes increase, but the mass remain the same. So according to density, so the ice is less dense than water. So therefore, ice is float on the water. So the floating ice insulate the water below, preventing it from freezing. Okay, this allow the aquatic organisms to survive in the water during winter. Okay, so then we can our friend Eskimo people, they already show that okay, ice is a very good insulator, can keep heat. Okay, so like ice is a good insulator to keep the temperature inside the igloo, okay, warmer than the surrounding. So from there you can see here the warmers, the heat is generated here, so therefore it's warmer. Okay, this one they show the structure, okay, of the hydrogen bonds that forms in the ice and in the water. In water, the hydrogen bonds they form and then disappear and reform again and disappear, they reform, disappear, reform. Okay, but in ice, the hydrogen bond is already static. Okay, so like just now we have mentioned the ice once they float. Okay, they float on the surface, one thing, and then they are a good insulator. Okay, so once the ice they freeze into the several inches, so the water below, okay, below the ice they cannot freeze anymore. This is because the ice is a good insulator. Okay, so they can the water beneath or the below the ice, the temperature cannot lower than 0°C. And once the water has another property is the water has the highest density at 4°C. Okay, So here, for example, the ice here sure is a 0 degrees Celsius, and above here, the surrounding is below 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, so once the water here, the water below ice, so they continue to decrease their temperature. So let's say for 5 or then to 4 degrees Celsius. And at the same time here, the layers that near to the surface, they contact with the water surface. So the ice also start to melt. Okay, so from 0 degree, okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So once they reach 4 degrees Celsius, the water will sink to the bottom of the water bodies. And the warmer water rises. Okay, so this they form a circulations. Okay, they to circulate nutrients. Okay, the nutrients at the bottom will bring up, and the nutrients from the uh, top or the surface near to the surface of water, they bring down, they sink. So these circulations of the nutrients ensure the survival of the aquatic organisms. Okay, they can obtain the nutrients at different water levels. Okay, this is like what my students they carry out the activities, and they show that the what we call the water at 4 degrees Celsius so they're going down sure here you can see it's a 4 degrees Celsius, so that means the ice is 0 degrees Celsius. So when we put into the water, so here they start to increase the temperature. So from here can see according to a theory we can show that 4 degrees Celsius of the water, so they sink, and then here can see they going up. Okay, sure, even though this activity we can't see the water sink at the 4 degrees Celsius, okay, but at least we can see the circulation, okay, that taken place. So this is from the research by scientists. So they found that at 4 degrees Celsius, the volume of water they reach the minimum. Okay, so once the volume is minimum, the mass no change, so the densities decreases. Okay, so this one they compare here is this is the density at 4 degrees Celsius. The water reached the highest density. Okay, so this is how the arrangement of the water molecules. So the ice, you can see the water molecules, they arrange far apart, okay, due to the hydrogen bonds. And then the warm water can see the water molecules, they move freely, okay, but they also have the spacings. So at 4 degrees Celsius, the water molecules, they are very, very close together, even though they can move freely. Okay, so the water at 4 degrees Celsius tends to sink and helps to maintain the circulation, okay, of the nutrient in the large body of water at different water level. Okay, then other properties of the water, such as the water also as an essential metabolite. Okay, they participate in biochemical reaction. So for examples, they use in enzymatic reaction that involve in hydrolysis. And then they also involve in photosynthesis, okay, the water photolysis. So they use as the water used as a source of electrons and hydrogen during what we call photolysis of water during photosynthesis. Water has a low viscosity. Okay, so that means they can move very fast. Okay, since the hydrogen bonds between the water molecules are continuously broken and reformed, so they can flow with less friction, okay, through the narrow vessel, okay, either in a blood vessel, blood capillary, or a xylem vessel, okay, and the spaces between the plant cells, okay, and other animal cells, and alimentary canal. So they also allow other substances slide over during the transport lah. So therefore, the water is a good transport medium as the body fluid in multicellular organisms, and also as a good aquatic habitat for aquatic organisms. So in summary, the structure of water molecule here you must know, okay, and also you must able to relate the properties of the water to biological significance in organism. So this is what we have learned. Okay, so I hope this one can as a checklist for you, okay, to check whether you understand or not, okay, the videos for today. Okay, so you must check it whether you can you understand this one. Can you explain this one? So if you can, so that means congratulations, you already understand water. Okay, so this is the exercise and I give you to do. So I hope that you can what we call to master, okay, your water subtopic. Okay, so next lesson we will be talking about the carbohydrates. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.